They would never do this. After 2 weeks of the North Carolina floods, it became clear that the people who ran Joe Biden weren't up to the task. So what did the response of CNN mean? They would never, for instance, have two separate responses to hurricanes and storms given who is in the Oval Office, right? They would never do that. They would never use death and storms for political purposes to further divide and destabilize the country, right? They would never do that.
What you just heard is not true. They're rumors and they're lies, and they are hurting the very people that thousands of FEMA emergency responders are trying to help.
So what wasn't true? It wasn't true that FEMA's directors said, don't go to houses with Trump flags, except it was true. It wasn't true that FEMA hadn't been rescuing people, except it was true. It wasn't true that FEMA had their employees staying in luxury hotels while people in North Carolina slept in shacks and in tents in swamps. It was true. You see them attacking the vicious disinformation. This is 2 weeks after the North Carolina flood.
It's raw politics and dangerous politics. A lot of the people who are believing these lies are Trump voters. Why is he spreading misinformation in a crisis like that? And does that concern you about your fellow North Carolinians?
You have migrants being housed in luxury hotels in New York City. We have paid so much money from our tax dollars into the crisis that didn't need to happen. We could redirect money to help people immediately on the ground in North Carolina.
Laura, they're saying
Florida,
that they have
probably going to have a situation coming up in the next several days.
That's a separate tranche of money.
Do you hear that? Dana Bash, do you hear yourself? That's a separate tranche of money? Well, it's just tranched and it can't be moved? No, it's called redirecting a budget. Business owners do it all the time. So now we're headed into 2 weeks after the Texas flood here in a second.
Separate tranche of money. Just talking about the federal government and even the local government. Two Texas National Weather Service offices involved in forecasting and warning about flooding on the Guadalupe River are missing some key staff members, a director of the NWS union.
This is 2 days after the flood. Do you hear yourself?
Told CNN that the Austin San Antonio office is missing a warning coordination meteorologist due to the Trump administration's buyouts. Do you have any indication whether those or other cuts helped play a role in the fact that the people in the flood zone were not prepared and certainly not evacuated?
Do you notice that she didn't say not warned? She's only willing to lie so far. NOAA can warn people, and they did, 12 hours in advance with warnings, many, many hours in advance with alarms. They can warn people. They can't force people to respond to the warnings or to heed the warnings or to be prepared. The far right, and look, I'm sorry for quoting far right sources. You know, sometimes the far right can be correct about things. And I would even say MAGA. You know what? Far right from MAGA, far populist right. The Associated Press points out that, in fact, there was extra staff, National Weather Service, building up into these storms. Associated Press. So on one hand, Dana Bash was telling the world it was dis and misinformation that the federal government was giving monies from FEMA to house people, illegal immigrants, in luxury hotels. That was true. She was saying it's disinformation. Her point is you can't move money. It's impossible for a director of FEMA to say, you know what, I'm sorry, we can't pay for the hotels for illegals anymore. We have to redirect these monies to the people of North Carolina. She's literally saying that's disinformation. She's now on the air 2 days after the Texas floods, explaining that NOAA, which had extra staffing, was short on staff. But they would never do this for the purposes of the revolution. They would never allow it. We must remove from our lexicon the phrase, they would never do that. And frankly, you know what? As human beings, there's a whole massive load of hubris into I would never do that. Man, do I caution you against things like that. I would never do that. How about God help me? I would never do that. God help me, I would understand if I was being misled degree by degree by degree until I finally arrive at a point where I don't recognize myself. Do you think that Dana Bash got here overnight? Do you think she left college and said, I want to deceive for a living?